Chances are you've seen people flying remote control model airplanes. There are at least 100,000 people in the United States who do this, and they're supported by a large industry which provides them with kits and radio controls, tools, paints, glue, that sort of thing. However, remote control helicopters are a different ballgame. Not nearly as many people fly them. There's a good reason for this. They are mechanically complicated and difficult to keep in the air. In fact, you can find helicopter pilots that tell you that flying a model is more difficult than flying the real thing. I'm sorry, of course, the model helicopter enthusiast considers that his machine is very real. Just learning to hover a model can take you from 1 to 3 months. So, you understand, it requires patience and practice, practice, practice. The reward of sticking with it is the exhilarating experience of being able to move freely in any direction. Watch with us as some of the best pilots in the world perform. This way, you can get an idea of the things you can do, after a lot of practice, of course. By the way, you'll see one of these models zipping along at a cool 106 miles per hour. The last thing we saw was an autorotation. Many people think that losing power will make a helicopter drop straight down to the earth and crash. Not so. You can use the energy of a downward fall to keep the rotor blades spinning. The momentum of the spinning blades is just enough to slow down the fall. If you make the right moves in the last few seconds, you can land safely. This so-called autorotation was probably the last thing that Dieter Schluter had on his mind when he got ready for his flight. In 1968, he won the first ever competition for flying model helicopters. He kept his model in the air for an amazing 6 seconds. By the way, why they chose John F. Kennedy as the statue awarded to the winner of the competition still remains a mystery.
Ja, seit 1968 befasse ich mich mit der ferngesteuerten Modellhubschrauberei. Damals hat die Firma Simprop in Hasewinkel einen sehr interessanten Wettbewerb für den Herbst 68 ausgeschrieben mit hohen Geldpreisen. Und ich wollte natürlich auch teilnehmen und habe mich erstmal erkundigt, wie ein ferngesteuerter Hubschrauber fliegt, aber das gab es damals natürlich noch nicht. Und so musste ich erstmal ganz von vorne anfangen mit neuen Ideen für Rotorköpfe, Kupplungen, Gebläse und ähnliches mehr. Und so bin ich dann mit meinem damals Sikorsky S58 genannten Modell auch nach Hasewinkel gefahren, um an diesem Wettbewerb teilzunehmen. So, das war dann der Wettbewerb in Hasewinkel 1968. Es gab insgesamt 11 Teilnehmer mit zum Teil sehr schönen Modellen. Hier der Nachbau eines Bell-Rotorkopfes. Aber jeder hatte enorme Probleme mit dem eigentlichen Antrieb. Hier der Versuch, ein offenes Getriebe mit einer offenen Antriebsmechanik zu konstruieren. Dann hier wiederum ein Versuch, den 5-Blatt-Hauptrotor durch ein Gebläse im oberen Rotorteil anzutreiben und damit das Drehmoment auszugleichen. Das ist ebenfalls ein 3-Blatt-Rotor mit direkter Ansteuerung. Aber das Problem war eben, die Modelle standen am Boden und funktioniert nicht richtig. Und ich führte hier mein Modell, die Sikorsky, vor mit 4-Blatt-Rotor, 4-Blatt-Heckrotor, Autorotationskupplung und ähnliches, anlassen mit einem Riemen. Und ich versuchte zu dieser Zeit den Heckrotor mit den Füßen zu steuern, so ähnlich wie ein großer Pilot. Und ein Freund von mir hielt das Modell in der Angel, damit ich überhaupt einmal dazu kam, einige Testflüge zu machen, ohne dass es überhaupt erst Bruch gab. Ja, so sahen dann die ersten Startversuche aus. Aber mir gelang es dann mit diesem Flug von etwa 6 Sekunden Dauer, den ersten Preis zu gewinnen. Und ich machte dann gleich noch einen zweiten Flug dazu, ähnlich lang, aber leider endete das Ganze mit Bruch. Aber immerhin, ich war aus eigener Kraft mit dem Hubschrauber in die Luft gekommen und musste ihn nicht wie hier auch noch hochwerfen, damit er überhaupt so etwas Ähnliches wie fliegen konnte. Und siehe da, mit 6 Sekunden Flugzeit machte ich damals den ersten Preis. So, zur Verbesserung der Stabilität habe ich dann damals diese Gewichte entwickelt und habe sie an die Spitzen der Rotorblätter montiert, damit einfach mehr Fliehkraft vorhanden war und der Rotor stabiler wurde. Außerdem habe ich diesen Kreisel hier gebaut, der mir geholfen hat, den Heckrotor richtig auszusteuern. Und dieser Kreisel hat also dann hier auf die Heckrotorbewegung reagiert und hat entsprechende Korrekturbewegungen gemacht. Und damit war es erstmals möglich, diese ständige Hin- und Herdreherei des Heckrotors zu vermeiden und den Rotor einigermaßen stabil in Richtung zu halten. Damit wurden auch die ersten Hüpfer einmal möglich, aber es war nach wie vor noch immer sehr, sehr schwer, alle 4 Steuerfunktionen zur gleichen Zeit zu handhaben. Aber mit dem Hauptrotor, das funktionierte alles nicht mit einem Rotor, deswegen baute ich ein 2-rotoriges Modell mit einem Notarrotor, das heißt also mit dem hinteren Heckrotoraustrieb. Und das funktionierte eigentlich schon recht gut, denn hier war das erste Mal das Drehmoment ausgeglichen und das Modell drehte nicht mehr so fürchterlich weg wie vorher. Und ich kam mal gelegentlich dazu, etwas den Hauptrotor überhaupt zu steuern und so ganz zarte, längere Schwebeflüge von 10, 20 Sekunden Dauer zu machen. Aber das mit den 2 Rotoren, das haute alles nicht so richtig hin. Deswegen habe ich dann doch wieder einen Rotor gebaut und habe alles weggelassen, was kompliziert war an kollektiver Blattverstellung und ähnliches und regulierte den Auftrieb mit der reinen Drehzahl. Und das führte dann Anfang 1970 sofort zur Bell Hui Cobra und im April 1970 zu meinem ersten Weltrekord mit 28 Minuten Flugdauer und einer Flugstrecke von 11,5 Kilometern. Und nach dieser Zeit einer glücklichen Landung.
This historic footage gives us an idea of why it took so long for model helicopters to get airborne compared to fixed-wing model airplanes. Needless to say, these first models were a bear to fly. The technology has come a long way since then. Today you can go into a hobby shop, plunk down $1,000 for a kit and a radio, and in a couple of days be ready to fly. The latest thing in the technology is the electric helicopter. It's quieter, and it doesn't smoke because it doesn't have the two-stroke engine with all that oil in the fuel. Here we can see an electric model flying near some familiar landmarks in California and in Berlin. Safety is a major consideration in flying model helicopters. The high-speed rotors have a definite potential for damage. How much potential we can see from an incident that occurred a couple of years ago.
Got that one? Get it?
Safety is even more important when you race these machines. You want to make sure that the only thing that gets damaged is the helicopter. Of course, we don't want to see these beautiful models crash. It just happens.
No. I was following these two, it was single. I didn't get that.
Another way of getting rid of your helicopter and even getting paid for it is to do it in the movies. You've seen realistic scenes in movies where a helicopter is destroyed. You probably wondered, how do they do this? Well, filming remote control model helicopters with special high-speed cameras make these disasters look real when they're played back in slow motion.
My name is Larry Jolly, and I'm the owner of Larry Jolly Miniature Productions. What we do at LJMP is build realistic movie miniatures. For instance, a good example is this 1/3 size B-25 that we built for Forever Young. We do the sculpting, the fiberglass manufacturing, and then we do the painting and go ahead and actually operate the vehicles. But the kind of things that you may have seen our work done is in movies where something blows up. For instance, Airwolf, the TV show. We worked on the entire series, and we did all the airplanes and helicopters for the destruction sequences, and we got to pilot the miniature Airwolf. Other projects that we've done, Midnight Run, where the Long Ranger, the 206L Long Ranger spins into the side of the mountain. We did that movie. A couple of years ago, some of my friends called me up and said they needed to work on a flaming asteroid for the opening sequence of a Siegfried and Roy television special. And the way we did this was we flew a steel ball underneath the gas alpha, and as you can see, I would fly down over the lagoon with it lit and then light the volcano as we went by. And it made for a very spectacular effect. There was a movie that we did called Miracle Landing that we won an Emmy for in 1989 with the 737 jet, where they obviously couldn't take a full-size jet aircraft and take the top off and get pictures, so they had us do a 1/10 scale miniature jet and fly all the scenes for the Aloha Air disaster for CBS. We've just been asked to work on a new movie called Terminal Force, written by a friend of mine, Nick Davis, and starring Bridget Nielsen. So the particular sequence, we have to produce LAPD Jet Ranger helicopters. As you can see, the LAPD operates many helicopters, 6 or 7, with 3 in the air at all times. They like to use the Jet Ranger. It's got an excellent record for maintenance, and they've never had an in-flight failure with the Jet Ranger at the LAPD. Some of these helicopters, in fact the one that we modeled, were built in 1979 and still flying and going strong. For this particular movie, we had to pay attention to all the scale detail on the Jet Ranger. You can see it's got a FLIR unit underneath. That's the round thing that looks like a ball for locating people on roofs. And it's got a speaker system. And also it's got this night light on the front of it. All these things we have to faithfully reproduce to work in our particular miniature. We've added all the paneling and rivet lines, and this model will be used in the actual destruction sequence later in the movie. When we construct a model for movie usage, the obvious thing is to try to make it look so you can't tell it's a model. We do a procedure where we actually raise all the panel lines and then apply the rivets. And if you look closely at the model, you'll see that all the little rivets and all the raised panels all add little shadows on the helicopter as it turns in the light, and that's what you see as real. So we go through a procedure here where we add the panels in the plug and then go ahead and actually mold them into the surface so that we only have to go ahead and apply paint instead of applying every rivet to each model. We may build as many as 5 models for a particular take. Right there, it shines me in my face. The flying is very seldom as it's originally portrayed. Every one of them is unique. Every one of them has its own special set of problems. This particular one, when we showed up on set, they constructed a small power station complete with smokestacks, and they wanted the helicopter to appear from behind the station, fly through the opening between the girders and the smokestack, and then do some work in front of the power station and fly away, exit the frame. The difficult thing I noticed was that it was very, very close. When I saw it and I asked for a tape measure, and indeed I had less than 10 inches off each rotor blade to fly through the small area. So the way we took care of it is I looked at where the center line of the fuselage should be in relation to a piece of the structure on the floor, and as I would fly through at a given altitude, I would just check to make sure that my fuselage remained in the center line to avoid any hitting of the structure and potentially bringing the helicopter down. For this particular effect, we had to do a sequenced crash, meaning it was shot in several pieces. The very first part of the crash, we put sparkler charges onto the top of the aircraft, and this was to simulate gunfire, which would incapacitate the helicopter. So as the helicopter moved into position, we would ignite these sparkles, and that would give me the cue to fly into a girder at a precise point. I would start flying backwards towards the structure, but that was the cut for the first part of the sequence. The second thing we had to do with this was the explosion sequence, where we fly a helicopter into the side of the power station and blow it up. It's actually pretty simple flying. You just aim for a mark and put it there. The main thing to always remember when we're blowing something up is these helicopters are carrying enough explosive that we could be badly injured or killed. And so we follow very strict safety procedures when we load the equipment and then starting the model up and putting it in position on the floor. Once you've got the motor running and the blades are turning, from there it's just roll the film. It's up to that point that you don't want to be getting back into the helicopter, the motor being naughty and not or starting or quitting. So that's where reliability comes in and prior planning, so that we don't have those kinds of problems.
So everybody's been notified.
Yeah.
Final! Final!
Bottom line is, it doesn't do any good to wrap it around my mechanic, because that isn't going to do anything. Your best bet is to put it against the fiberglass and try to unzip the fiberglass.
That's what I mean, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Okay, well that's totally to be destroyed.
Okay guys, just going to run through the procedure of what we're going to do in this shot. So obviously everyone's aware we have pyrotechnics, so we're blowing the thing up, and we've got naphthalene and gasoline and sparks going off and water starting off, and it's going to be free flying through the air. So only the people that really need to be in here should be in here. So I'll give you, Larry, I'm going to give you after, I'm going to give you ready and action. I'll figure it out, don't worry.
Well, from that point, I'm going to put the nose of the helicopter about a foot in from there. The object is to hit right here, and settle down here, and that's where you blow it.
So the nose of the helicopter, over a little bit, is the nose that's over a little bit. We'll have to clean it. The nose of the helicopter is about here.
Okay, then we need to move it over slightly.
Okay, the nose of the helicopter here, hopefully it's going to flip around and it'll come down in this area somewhere.
Okay. Okay, is everybody, I am like ready to fire.
All right guys, here we go. Fire in the hole! It's going to be a pyrotechnic explosion. Yay! Yell it out, guys.
Yeah, plug it in. Okay. Here we go. Take and roll camera. Roll camera. Great. Ready and action. That's a cut. Cut.
After we've cleaned up the mess, we'll move on to another interesting aspect of helicopter flying. We saw Larry flying in the dark. This is considered very difficult unless you put some lights on the rotor blades and mount illuminating chemical sticks on the landing skids. This not only helps the pilot see what he's doing, but also creates a spectacular effect. When we were looking over the footage to be used in this production, we found a scene that was shot at a field a couple of years ago. It's a pretty unusual viewpoint of a crash.
Oh, not in the street, Charlie.
You might have heard the terms like hot dog flying or three-dimensional flying. Two-time world champion Curtis Youngblood will give us a demonstration of what that's all about. The machine that we saw Curtis flying is a type called pot and boom. There's another type that's called scale. Scale helicopters are machines that people spent a lot of time and effort to make look like the real thing. Hot dog flying is probably not a good idea with such a fine machine. So we're at the end of our excursion into the world of model helicopters. We think you'll agree that for being only 25 years old, they are quite mature and sophisticated. Whether flown for a living or just for fun, it takes quite some skill, talent, and patience. But the rewards are a unique kind of freedom of the skies.